All right, good morning, everyone. So I just wanted to come in here and show my appreciation. I had some recent music sales on some projects and some tracks, so we'll just kind of go into that a little bit and start the morning off right by explaining some of the creative process behind it, where some of my ideas come from. And then at the end, I'll probably give you guys some recommendations for some songs to check out, not by me, but other artists that I'm into and that will probably be worth your time. But in case you don't know, so my name is Justin, but I also create music under the alias Cray2Mas. So that is my musical production name. You can find my works by searching Cray2Mas on YouTube. It's not spelled the way it's pronounced. It's technically Cray2Mas, a lot of people say, but it's Cray2Mas. So, I like to bend rules a little bit. But the first thing we'll get into here is a recent sale that I had for my original soundtrack that I crafted for the YouTube channel Disturbed Reality. So my Disturbed Reality original soundtrack. Huge shout out. I'll make sure I get to the name of the person that purchased that after I kind of review a little bit about the process behind it and everything. So I just want to say thanks. First and foremost, I appreciate anybody that supports my music, purchases, listens, streams, anything. It truly means a lot. Music is not one of those industries that people really get super rich off of. It's the odd exceptions. It's not the majority. So I stay busy with a lot of other ventures, so I don't get to work on music as much as I would like to properly enjoy anymore. But at the end of the day, music is my passion. That's where I came from. And I began crafting music in 2010, 2011 is when I very first produced my first musical piece, which is by my standards now complete shit. But some of those vintage tracks, I mean, you look at some of Tyler the Creator, when he was going by Ace the Creator and stuff like that, some of his vintage works, I mean, to me are classics, but I'm sure he looks at it and is like, sure, those were great for the time, but I would never make something like that now, with new knowledge and so on. So without further ado, though, I have a tendency to ramble, so I'll try to stay on point here. But for the Disturbed Reality soundtrack, I actually I reached out to him on Twitter after I caught a couple of his videos. Anyone familiar with the channel know, it's pretty extreme subject matter, to put it lightly. Nothing graphic displayed, but I mean, if you're of the morbidly curious mind, you can certainly easily come across these videos upon a couple quick searches. I know my earliest experience back in the day, I remember one in particular that came across Facebook. That's how widespread some of the stuff was. And these new age kids, they don't know how the internet used to be. You could go scrolling and just, all of a sudden there's beheading videos and stuff on Facebook. So there's all kind of stuff, but I've really seen it all at this point. And yeah, some of the stuff can be pretty shocking. So some of the descriptions alone, will have you feeling uneasy, with goosebumps. So I definitely recommend checking out the Disturbed Reality channel. It's one of those channels you come across, you listen to the stories. It's not something you hear every day on YouTube. It's not something, you come across every day. I really wanted to be a part of something like that, and I felt like I had a darker kind of tone, a sound that meshed well with his channel style. So I reached out to him through Twitter and email and sent some tracks over. He felt the vibe. And from there, I crafted the rest of the soundtrack for him, sent it over. About 10 or 11 tracks, I think, or 8 or 9. But I'll make sure I put some links and stuff like that. You can go listen if you want to for yourself. My main premise behind designing the soundtracks, in particular for this channel, because I have crafted original works for other channels as well, some that have gotten used, some that haven't gotten used as much. But for the Disturbed Reality channel in particular, I wanted to make sure I kept the instrumentation simple, and I didn't want too many cooks in the kitchen, so to speak. I didn't want to take away from his narration. He has a very great voice for the stories he tells, and his cadence has a very, how do you put this, almost like this dreary kind of, like the way he talks about it. I think that's part of what gives you the goosebumps, the way he illustrates these stories through his voice. So I didn't want to take too much away from that. So I kept the instrumentation simple, just about 2 or 3 sounds. Really more soundscapes, kind of simple drones, just using a couple synth lines and some, repetitious patterns, with slight variations throughout. You really don't want to take too much away from the narration, so I wanted to keep that in mind as I crafted his soundtrack for him. And yeah, that was one of those. It was pretty enjoyable though to make. That definitely came through the pandemic time, and through that time, I mean, really, if you're a creative, especially if you're a producer like me, and you're already used to being inside all the time, I mean, there was really, at that point, there was no excuse to get away from finishing old projects. And I mean, the new ideas blossomed without any thought or care in the world. It came so naturally and easily during that time. I really think most of the stuff I'm covering here I produced during that time. It really was a fantastic time for music and creatives, I think, in general, because you're going through the turmoil that sparks new ideas, and you're also forced into a corner where, there is nowhere to go at this point. You have to finish projects. You have to, flesh the ideas out. What else are you going to do? And on top of that, it pushes the boundaries of, where you can push your imaginative limits, because you're trapped inside. There is no escape. So where else are you going to go? You have to create a new world for yourself. So yeah, the Disturbed Reality soundtrack, definitely one of my favorite custom projects to make, especially for a YouTube channel. The first big YouTube channel I crafted a small catalog for. So that was definitely enjoyable, and I'm forever grateful for him taking a chance on me to be trusted to, craft the sound, for his channel. So that's super awesome. Love him for that. And big love and support for all of the Disturbed Reality fans out there. I think I speak on behalf of him as well, that, we appreciate any support that comes through. I mean, I just, produce the music for the channel, but I mean, he puts a lot of work and research into what he does. So I'm sure he appreciates this kind of support as well. So real quick, I'll go ahead and give a shout out to the amazing person that purchased the soundtrack. So I just checked the email from Bandcamp where the purchase came from. It actually looks like his name could be one of two names. It's either Noah or it's Alan. His email's got one name. The actual purchase name, though, we have here is Noah M. So, hey, Noah, greatly appreciated, my friend. I appreciate you supporting. And as I stated, I'm sure Disturbed Reality appreciates the support as well. And hope you continue to watch and enjoy. And I very much appreciate you supporting the original soundtrack. So the next purchase I had here was actually for a single track. I'm probably gonna, it's been a while, and hey, I did not cheat, okay? This is strictly off the top, so I might get it wrong. I didn't cheat and use Google. So Björk, her song Pagan Poetry, I did a remix to in 2021, I believe. I might have created that remix earlier and released it later. I think I released it 2021 or 2022. Actually, as a collection, I did a few Vespertine remixes. That's her album, Vespertine. Oh, by the way, I love Frosty from that album. Just such a nice little, tucked in moment. I love little moments like that on albums. It's so nice. I love Frosty. Harm of Will, of course. I did a remix to that as well. And then the topic of this one here, Pagan Poetry. Absolutely love that track. And, the beat behind that track on my remix was actually crafted from a different song entirely, that had a different structure. Maybe I'll play a little bit of the original track that I crafted the Pagan Poetry remix from. It's its own original work with no samples or anything like that in it. But then I was like, man, this really would mesh well with some of Björk's music. Let me listen through some of the catalog. I think by that time I had already crafted the Harm of Will remix, and I was like, this would really fit into kind of like a little Vespertine remix project type thing. So yeah, making that Pagan Poetry remix. There's some stuff I feel like still could be better. It kind of reminds me of that one video where Kanye's like, I could just never get the drums right for oh, which one is it? Can't Tell Me Nothing. Yeah, where he's like, man, the drums need to be tougher. They need to be stronger. Like, bring in this producer, bring in this producer. For me, though, I mean, I crafted the whole thing myself, so there was no bringing in other producers. But I just remember going through so many 808 sounds, so many kick sounds, layering stuff, trying so hard to mix it right, get the kick right. Even now, on the odd listen, I'm like, it doesn't hit as hard as it could. Like, it doesn't hit as strong as I wish it would. But in totality, I love the Pagan Poetry remix. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, me personally, I like it better than the original. That is one of those odd exceptions. Typically, I do like the original work better. I'm not gonna lie, I'll toot my own horn this time. I prefer the cadence and the style that I crafted behind the Pagan Poetry remix. But also on top of that, that is one of my favorite album covers I've ever made for a project. I make all my album covers, and I grab that picture of Björk, and the text style, just everything fits. I mean, to me, it perfectly meshes well with the exact sound and what I saw while creating those remixes for that project. So definitely just all around one of my favorite works. I definitely love that entire little Vespertine deluxe remix project that I did. I mean, I even did a Frosty edit, but yeah, the Harm of Will remix, the Pagan Poetry remix, I love those. I loved crafting the instrumental versions of those tracks too. It's just very enjoyable stuff, and like I said, that's arguably one of my favorite album covers I've ever made for a project. So I definitely love that. So big shout out for supporting the Pagan Poetry remix, and that was purchased by. So big shout out to Antonio for purchasing the Pagan Poetry remix. Huge praise and thank you. Hey, I would purchase it too. I love that track. It's definitely one of those that I really enjoyed making. As stated before, came from that pandemic era. I really slammed out so many ideas. I just had endless time and creative juice to squeeze out during that time. It was absolutely great time for music, and it really enjoyable, and that was really one of my favorite remixes to make. So I highly appreciate you supporting, so that means a lot, Antonio. Appreciate it. So the most recent and the final purchase that I'll cover here of someone supporting my music was actually a remix I did. A lesser known artist, some of you may know who she is, but Ravina had a track called Tweety. Not sure how I came across this track. Oh, I actually do remember how I came across the track now that I think of it. There's a couple other songs that she has. That one song, Honey, Temptation. Oh, what's that other one? Ooh, I'll probably be upset at myself later for not remembering the other one, but there's 2 or 3 tracks that I really enjoy by Ravina, especially Honey. Oh, such a good song. I actually used parts of that video for creating the video for my Tweety remix, which I crafted in 2021. Again, during that pandemic era, fantastic time to produce music. So for the Ravina remix, I heard the track and I felt like, this is like missing a groove. I felt like drums were missing. Like sometimes, my producer friends can probably attest to this. Sometimes you hear a sample or you can hear a track, you don't even have to be digging through the crates. You just might be hearing some stuff randomly, regular modern music. It doesn't even have to be from the 70s or 80s and be like, dang, I know the exact thing that this track is missing. And I felt like that track in particular was missing, some fantastic, like, how do I put this, like almost like a early mid 2000s like drum, like, I don't want to say it's not even like Aaliyah Timbaland style, but just in my mind I saw like, early mid 2000s music video. The drums sound like this, the styles like this, you hear this song come on the radio. That was kind of the angle I was coming at when I crafted that remix, And I think all things considered, it came out well. I think I executed my vision exactly how I wanted to for that track. I really love all the different little transitions I put through that song, through my remix of that track. I definitely, this is another one of those odd exceptions where I feel like I prefer my remix over the original. I personally, I feel like my remix sounds like a more finished version of the song, of what the song could have been. So I definitely loved creating that Ravina remix. I'm probably playing little parts of it in the background here, along with the other tracks from before. You could probably hear some of that in the background. But yeah, that's just one of those things, man. Like I love creating a certain sound when I hear something, a certain style. I don't like to limit myself to one style, so it's like, I have the Disturbed Reality soundtrack is its own complete, genre style. The only other soundtrack I made before that, that I really like crafted, with intention and put out as a release prior was the my fan made original soundtrack for the Parasite film, the Korean film. If you guys are familiar, a really great movie. You should watch it. Matter of fact, I should rewatch it soon because it's just such a great story and narrative of how people will push each other down to get to the top. But without getting too far off topic, that was the only other soundtrack kind of thing that I made prior to the Disturbed Reality soundtrack, that was crafted with intention like that, and with a certain progression, as the project went on. And that was a very small release EP, kind of experimentation period there. So that was nice, but that was like its own little separate genre experiment. And then, I mean, the contrast between the Björk Pagan Poetry remix and this Ravina Tweedy remix as well. I mean, just vastly different sounds. That's one of the greatest things about being a creative. You can really go anywhere with it, do anything with it, and create the exact vision you want. Sometimes to a detriment. You get so caught up in an idea that you'll tweak snares for hours. The hi-hat, you'll raise and low the hi-hat. Is the hi-hat too high? Let me raise the EQ on the high end. The hi-hat's not peeking through enough. You can compress things differently. I mean, there's just so much variety and stylistic choice. It really is. It is one of those double-edged swords where if you go on too long, you lose the plot. You know what I mean? So, but it's just one of those things. And when it feels right, that's the beautiful thing about music. When it feels right, it's done. You have this inner feeling of like, that's it right there. And I know my other musical creatives can relate to that. So big shout out to the person that purchased the Ravina Tweedy remix. That was actually purchased by an amazing person named Celine. Thank you, Celine. I appreciate that. It was definitely a very enjoyable track to make. I have some other Ravina remixes, but they're under wraps. They never came out. They're not really finished. I think for me, she's kind of one of those artists that I've worked on a few different remixes. Some of them don't quite come out right, so I hold off on them until I tweak them more. I have a lot of excuses now to why I don't finish a lot of my older works now, but she's one of those artists kind of like Beyonce. I have like one Beyonce remix out, and it's even that one I feel like it's kind of, would I release it now? I don't know. I like the style. It's definitely different than anything Beyonce has put out before, and I took it in a different direction, so I like to do that. I think that is part of the reason why I did push to put that one out, because I was like, I took it in a different direction, kind of catch a vibe and feel a vibe for the style I went for it on there. But yeah, Ravina's one of those artists. She's really good. She's still doing very well. I need to catch up on some of her latest releases, but without getting too far out of hand here, we'll just go ahead and wrap this up now. But big shout out to everybody that has supported my music. I mean, that means so much. Again, Crate Tomas on YouTube, Spotify, all that if you want to listen. I'm a producer. No vocal, every now and then I'll throw some little vocal, maybe some ad-libs or something in there, but I'm not a vocal artist. I produce music. I'm a music arranger, music producer. I craft sounds. That's what I do. I remix, I produce, I build, I chop samples. I do it all. I've done it all. I've made hundreds and thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds of finished tracks and thousands of ideas in general that have yet to come out. Perhaps, if I get everything in order the way I want to, I'll have like a big database that can just release, whenever I'm done and gone here in this world. But as of right now, there's still a lot of stuff that needs to be finished first and compiled together. So, let's see how much time I have to get that kind of figured out. But like I said, I stay busy with a lot of other work and other ventures that I'm heavily involved in other industries. But I will always come back to music, and I will always appreciate anybody who supports my music. That means so much to me. I pour a lot of time, attention, and care and love into music. So, hey, that means so much for anyone to even listen, let alone support it financially. So, hey, big shout out to all you guys that listen and support. And yeah, be on the lookout for more stuff. My latest release that I put out some months back, Devoid, just a 3-track EP, kind of more in the vein of a experimental, droning, atmospheric kind of release. No drum action there, just more ambience. I was really getting into an ambience pocket there. I was actually crafting a soundtrack for another channel. It ended up not really getting used. It was used on like 1 or 2 videos for a different YouTube channel. So most of those works are unheard. They probably will come out in a different form at a later time, but that honestly, like, I love the progression I made from the style I did for the Disturbed Reality soundtrack compared to the soundtrack I did there. I mean, the textures are so rich. I loved like just the gravity and the weight of the songs that I put there. You can get a little taste of that on the Devoid EP. So please go listen to that. Namely, I would say on the opening track in Utopia, that is, oh, I just love the weight of that track, and the textures present that I inserted there is just, I really do love that track. So, but that whole project in general, got a Flying Lotus remix on there, track 2. With Spin Cycles, another personal favorite. I mean, I love all my music. What can I say? But hey, go check it out. Big shout out and appreciation to everybody who supports my music. It means so much to me. And with that being said, guys, I hope everyone has an excellent day out there. All right, family. So I did forget to include in the other videos 3 tracks that I recommend. So the first track I would recommend would be Hollywood by Lau. So I'll make sure I have the links down to these tracks below as well. This one just such a groove, man. Like, it's really one of those tracks you just listen to. You can't help, like, the way the beat is, the cadence, and the vocal style. It just makes you want to move a little bit. It's a fantastic group, so you definitely got to check that one out. So yeah, Hollywood by Lau. So my second pick here would be for Padme's Ruminations by John Williams for the Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith soundtrack. Oh man, like, whew, you talk about a fantastic cut from that soundtrack. It's got to be probably my favorite, just little moment. Kind of like what I was saying about the Yerk track, Frosty from Vespertine. It's just like a little moment. It's nothing like special, like it's nothing major. It's just kind of tucked in into the rest of the works there. But it is such a fantastic little piece, a nice moment, and really, when you're watching the film, that really is like a defining moment. It's just ominous. There's not another moment like that really in Star Wars, in the other movies, and for the soundtrack as well. It's just a fantastic ominous vibe. Love that song. So my last pick here for a recommendation would be the remix to Flying Lotus Roberta Flack featuring Ahu, but it's Martin's Heartbeat mix. So I actually included that in my mix, the Valley Sport Extreme mix. I inserted this as part of the mix as well. A fantastic tune. It really has a great groove as well, and it's a pretty long track as well. So if you like being in a moment for a little while, catching a groove for a little while, it's definitely one of those. I also had the immense pleasure of doing a proper remix for Ahu with Ahu's official permission and everything. She sent over the vocals. A fantastic artist. I love Ahu. I did a remix to her track Jaito Bomb de Sofre. Shit, hey, not my native tongue, you know what I'm saying? But a fantastic group. I loved doing that remix for Ahu. It was a fantastic time making that. Definitely, that's a heavy beat as well on the remix that I did. Her original version is more soft, a completely different style. So I loved making that as well. But yeah, I have to say the remix to Flying Lotus's track Roberta Flack, Martin's remix, the Heartbeat mix, fantastic tune, big tune. Definitely check that out. I'll make sure I have all these tracks linked down below as well. So hey, appreciate y'all checking out the video, man. It's been a pleasure talking some music stuff. If you have some comments, questions, anything about creating music, the process, you know, maybe even trying to work with YouTube channels, whatever, hey, feel free to ask me anything, man. Like, and I'll make another video in the future covering some more music stuff like this. So I hope everyone has an excellent day out there, and yeah, let's do it.